Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
One of the best ways to grow your online business is to exist in people's lives outside of the internet. So if you exist in on their bedside table, if you exist on their coffee table, if you exist in their swim bag that they take to the pool while their kids play, they will be thinking of your space. And when they have questions, they're going to, of course, go to you and go back to your world.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice and business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Love cozy mysteries? Meet Nora Bardin, a lifelong puzzle solver turned author who crafts fast-paced, feel-good whodunits. Her stories are packed with charm, suspense, and satisfying twists. Whether you're fireside or on your lunch break, escape into a world where justice always wins. Discover Nora Bardin's books now on Amazon. Hi, Meg. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm a fellow singer like you, so it's so fun to meet other
Totally.
artists who are also
Yes.
entrepreneurs.
I am excited to hear more about your journey. Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm Meg Calvin, and I'm a writing and marketing coach, and I help writers do the deep spiritual work to write, market, and sell their Amazon bestsellers on Audible, Kindle, and paperback. And if that word spiritual feels kind of, well, that's interesting. What does she mean by that? What I mean is intangible. And so I can tell from your book behind you that you probably know what I'm going to say next, which is the biggest blocks for writers are intangible. They can't be seen. They are felt. And so they are outside of our senses, if you will. So whatever label you have for that, I say spiritual, some might say intangible. That's what I'm all about, is getting writers and leaders and servant leaders unblocked.
I love that so much. Well, I'm all about the backstory, so I want to hear all about how
Yeah.
you got into this. How did you start coaching and helping people with writing and publishing their books?
Yes. So I am not from corporate like a lot of your guests are. I was a minister, so I came from the nonprofit world.
Wow.
And my backstory is by the time I was six, my family had experienced all of us, all the T's, little T trauma, big T trauma, all the T's.
Hmm.
And so my mom's secretary invited me to, probably like you, I was singing before I was talking. So when I was six, I was invited by my mom's secretary to sing in her all black gospel choir. So here I
Wow.
was, this little white girl, brown braids, and learning to breathe, learning to feel the harmony as an alto, contralto, mezzo that I am, learning to move with the spirit. And in that moment, I had this very healing experience with this God that heals and this God that, and I knew I was going to be okay. And my missionary grandparents noticed singing gifts in me and preaching gifts. So when I was 13, I was this ecclesial show pony, and they would take me to conferences and churches and mission trips, and I would sing and I would preach.
Wow.
And I equated, like all of us overachievers do, I equated applause with unconditional love. And that sealed that subconscious joy in my veins that I was only worth loving if I was singing, if I was speaking,
Mhm.
and I had to get applause to earn love. So I literally preached from age 13 to 32, was on a church payroll at 17, went to seminary, and at 28, everything shifted. At this somatic Enneagram retreat, the facilitator asked me, Meg, what would you do all day that would bring you pleasure? And if no one knew you did it and no one was there to applaud you, you'd still want to wake up the next day and do it again. And I knew in a place deeper than the part of my brain that puts words to things, I knew the answer was writing. That's what I always loved about ministry.
Mhm.
And so in 2016, wrote my first book, and that opened the door for speaking at conferences, and I began coaching ministers from professional burnout. By the time I was 32, I felt myself evolving. So I made the leap to become a full-time writing and marketing coach. And now, that would have been 2020. I started my business, went full-time August of 21, And now I have a team of 7 people.
Wow.
I've served 65 clients across 5 countries, 3 continents, and we have everything writers need to write, market, and sell their Amazon bestseller. And while I do come from a spiritual background, my clients are all over the religious spectrum. Some even would wear the label as atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And they still love being in my space because my gifts can still serve them, though I might change my language that in a way that best motivates them.
Yeah.
But I love working with servant leaders, those whose books are changing the world.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wow, what a story. And I resonate with so much of it. Growing up in church myself and being in that environment for so long and having lots of things kind of dictate what I did with my life. And then, interestingly enough, the world of business opened my mind up and opened me up to pursuing my gifts in a little bit of a different manner, but still creating lots of impact. I love that so much. Now, let's talk more about the book writing process. So, you said you published your first book before you even got into supporting other people. What was that book
Mhm.
about? What was the writing process about? And then we'll get into how you help clients.
Yes, this happens a lot. My first book was a seminary paper. And
Okay.
so what I mean, it happens a lot is I've noticed lots of great communicators, there's gold in past projects. I like to use the example of Jason Sudeikis. He made Ted Lasso. He's, as you know, part of that.
Yeah.
That was a commercial years before it was a show, and he didn't want it to be a show. It was just a commercial, a really funny commercial. But his friends were like, "There's something else here. You're not this idea. It's meant to be used again." So that's what happened to me.
Mm,
So my first book was called The Bluebonnet Child, Finding Grace in Poor Soil, and it's nonfiction. It's a how-to guide to help kids from whose home life seem hopeless. So how can teachers, churches, YMCA's be supplemental family to kids of neglect and abuse? And so that was my first book.
okay. Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Seeing that one idea or one story has more to give. And that's why we
Yeah.
write a book, right? Because then it
Yes.
expands and it can touch so many more people than people you would touch personally, one-on-one,
Hmm.
or even, where you can go speak somewhere. Your book can reach so many different places. And that's why I love books.
Yes.
So tell me more
Yes.
about the writing process and how you help clients. I'm assuming in a similar fashion, helping them expand the reach of an idea or a story that they have. Do you help clients mostly with nonfiction? Tell us more.
Yeah, yeah. So right now it's memoir or nonfiction.
Okay.
And I just finished my third book, which is a work of fiction. It's not finished. The first draft is done and it's
Okay.
in beta's readers' hands. But so I hired a coach and learned that game. And so right now I have 17 different packages that have been developed over the 5 years of seeing where the different authors are in different places. Some have an idea on a napkin, some have a finished manuscript, some just want an audiobook on Audible, some just want help marketing and building their brand. Their book's already published. And so my zone of genius is the intangible stuff, helping them get around their blocks and their writing blocks, their creative blocks, and then of course, helping them create a template for a book that is readable, relatable, retainable, and highly marketable. And so the client care is my zone of genius, and then the marketing is my zone of genius as well, and building their brand. So then I just brought on a team of other professionals that help pick up all the other pieces of copy, line editing, formatting, cover design, audible editing, and all of that. But my first 2 books were with traditional companies, and that was a wonderful experience because I learned so much from those traditional publishing companies. But in 2023, I had this pissed off moment. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs can talk about our why and what breaks our heart. And it broke my heart the amount of censorship I saw in traditional publishing companies when there was a female client of mine whose book, because when I first started my business, it was I'll help you write it, build your brand, market it, and then help you submit queries so companies will see, oh, this author knows how to market. This author has a wonderful book that's already finished. We want him or her. And so, but this moment in 2023, I was blown away when I had a client whose memoir had a horrible traumatic moment of date rape, and the traditional publishing company told her that she couldn't talk about that in her book and to remove that vignette. And I was blown away and heartbroken. And so the amount of censorship, the lack of royalties, the lack of rights. And then I realized, because I have an amazing business coach who helped me through all this, I realized, oh, wait, is this one of those moments I'm being pushed out of the nest to start my own thing? So I did. I realized I know enough. It's 2023. I've been in the game since 2016. I know what I'm amazing at. I know what I'm weak at. And I know that I can find the team that will support me and we can give authors everything they need. So that's what I've built.
Ooh, that is amazing. I love how you saw that need and you were enraged and you're like, I'm going to create something where I can support these people in the way that I
Mm-hmm.
think is the best way for them to be supported. That's amazing. Well, that said,
Yes.
you said you have clients that are in different stages of the writing
Mm-hmm.
process, which is really encouraging because lots of people stop
Yeah.
themselves because they think they need to have it a certain way to even get started. So what is your advice in terms of when is the best time to write a book?
Mm. When is the best time to write a book? Yes, 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 yes. It's so interesting when I hop on exploration calls with people. The book's been whispering, usually like 5 to 7 years comes up.
Wow.
And so I always think that's interesting. And if it is whispering louder, if the idea is whispering louder, I have the belief that it's because the need of people that you're called to serve, that need is growing.
Yeah.
And it's they have a specific need for the book to come from you. They need your specific scars, they need your specific personality, your specific way of curating your style. They need you. And so if the book idea is getting louder, the people I call in, it's never because of ego. I haven't, I've yet to work with someone that wants to make a lot of money and then just pay for full body hair removal. That's the only example I could think of. Their motive is always helping others with
Mhm.
their business or their book. And so they can trust if the book idea is getting louder, it's because the need of others is growing. And this is also another reason. So that is why it's the right time. And the second reason is that I've noticed only always that when we birth when we birth books, we birth life breakthroughs. And so there's a gift that the book wants to give you by releasing it, by listening to it and releasing it.
I love how you said that it's really like a twofold gift because when the moment is right, you are
Mhm.
going to be releasing a gift, a lesson that you need, and that's why it's whispering louder. But also because whoever it is that you're meant to touch, it's whispering
Mhm.
louder because those people need it now more than ever. So that is a beautiful way
Yes.
to explain why it's whispering louder and oftentimes people take years, like you said. Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburke.com/podcast guest for more information.
Yes. And the other reason now matters more than ever to write it for business owners and those of us that have online businesses is just like your book is a touch point in your house.
Mhm.
The one of the best ways to grow your online business is to exist in people's lives outside of the internet,
Yeah.
especially as I feel we're going to be as this in America. I'll just speak for where I am.
Mhm.
We're going to be having more boundaries with our technology now
Yeah.
that we're seeing how everything that we're seeing the negative side effects of it. So if you exist in on their bedside table, if you exist on their coffee table, if you exist in their swim bag that they take to the pool while their kids play, they will be thinking of your space. And when they have questions, they're going to, of course, go to you and go back to your world. And then the fourth reason now's the right time to write it is because of AI, there's about to be a whole lot of noise
Mm.
and not heartfelt noise. It's
Right.
going to be a lot of noise. And so what people we as you as an artist know this, the energy of the creator stays in the creation. That's why when we look at works of art or when we hear a song that was written millions, like hundreds of years ago, we can still feel the energy
True.
of, oh, Joni Mitchell is still alive, but she just came to be like, I feel Joni Mitchell in this song. Like, is she in the room with me? The
Mm.
same is true for our books. So more than ever, we can learn to use AI as tools, but it would be such a shame for those of us that were called to write feel our power. And more than ever, people need they need to feel the frequency of you in your book as well to break through all the noise that AI is writing and doing.
So true. I'm glad that you touched on AI and on social media. And I love what you said. The energy of the creator is in the creation. So you
Yes.
can feel it, whether they're alive or not. It's still
Mhm.
present. And then so it matters who the creator is. And I think
Yes.
it's a big concern in terms of AI, like authenticity and all of that. And also what you said about um, for a while there, everybody was so in touch with the physical and meeting in person because that's all we had. Technology changed
Right.
all of that. Let's just connect on social media. Now we see a shift as well because we're noticing the harm that that could cause in our relationships and interactions. So let's move back to in person. So what does that
Hmm.
do? Well, that means we need to use tangible things in print to anchor that in and connect with people. So that is so true. But I love that. So speaking of tangible, when you're talking about spiritual and intangible, because when people ask me, if it was hard to write a book or about my book journey, I say
Hmm.
how it was fast and how it was not hard. What's harder is actually getting it out and making the decision. Now, this is the time to release it and, get it through editing or whatever it may be to really go through the process. And that's what takes the longest because if you hire somebody and they're ready to go and review things and you're uploading things like that does not take time, especially nowadays with KDP and all of these things. What
Right.
really sets us back, holds us back, and usually in all areas of life, it's our own mind and our own thoughts. And you said this is your favorite part to handle with clients. How do you guide them through that? What is your process?
Yes, yes. So I've noticed there are four main types of writer's block, and I
Mhm.
have the acronym, which is called MIRE, like the muck and mire of writer's block. So it's
Mhm.
MIRE.
Okay.
And so the most common are a mindfulness block, an identity block, a rejection of fear
Mhm.
block. I'm sorry, a fear of rejection block, a rejection block, as I call it. And then there's an emotional block. And what that means is that what the book wants them to write, it's literally, as we know, when our brain relives a memory, our body and our brain feels like it's happening all over again.
Yes.
So why would I want to relive that? And it's hard. So they don't, that's an emotional block. They don't want to reopen that wound.
Mhm.
And so those are every single bit of writer's block I've experienced and helped people through. It's been a version of one of those four.
Okay.
And and a mindfulness block is they're not mindful or present during the day. They're not receiving nurturing, pampering, smelling the coffee, looking into their kids' eyes.
Mhm.
They're totally not present in the day. Then they get to the keys or they pull out their pen and all of a sudden they're like, okay, muse, inspire me. But they haven't been mindful all day. So, and the identity block is of course, they were told, you're the fun sister. Your big sister's the smart sister. You're the fun one. So there's now this story running. They're 67, but there's still the story of, I'm not the smart sister. So anyway, and then of course, fear of rejection is something I want to write. I'm going to lose the respect
Yeah.
of my parents. And so how we work through this is first, of course, figuring out which four is
Uh-huh.
this, and then journaling exercises around it, reframing that story, guided meditation going back to that time,
Mhm.
and giving voice to those emotions.
Mhm.
And then sometimes we take field trips. All my clients are on Zoom, so I will guide them to find a rage room if it is anger that they need to have a
Mhm.
cathartic release, or
Yeah.
throwing eggs at a tree, depending on their personality.
Uh-huh.
And so sometimes it's watching a documentary about Dolly Parton and her business shark intuition. And in my world, depending on the client, I will use the term divine feminine energy. How do we lead our business from a place of knowing when to be in the divine masculine
Mhm.
and when to be in the divine feminine? And Dolly Parton's Netflix documentary is a phenomenal teaching tool. And so those are some of the unconventional ways
Mhm.
that I guide readers through those blocks. And I think um, I'll pause.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I love that you have, for one, I love that you handle that because so many
Mhm.
times when we're working, and I speak from experience and working with a few different
Yeah.
people and knowing several people that help with publishing, it's like,
Hmm.
here's the list of the things you need to do. And it's like, well,
at times we stop ourselves and we can even get through the list. Because sometimes we don't do things because you don't have a plan. Then you hire somebody that gives you the plan and it still doesn't work. And typically it's because it's an internal block, intangible block, a spiritual block. I love that you have all those names, but you not only acknowledge them and help them through it, you give them options of, let's see which of these categories are. So I love the Meyer framework, which can also help our listeners in whatever it is that they're wanting to tackle. Because we're talking about books, but this shows up in everything, right? I need to launch a new offer, or I need to follow up with that client, but I keep stopping myself. We procrastinate. We start, getting busy with other activities because we don't want to handle whatever it is that's blocking us. So I love that you touched on all of these. This is amazing. And the focus on the inner is so important because that's what gets us to do anything. It's the inner, right? And the whispers, like what you were saying, which is really good. Now, in terms of being super successful, building this business, helping people, what does it look like for your self-care and how you balance your life, your family, as a successful entrepreneur?
Yes. So my must-haves are I journal, I meditate in the morning. I like to read something, a sacred text of some kind in the morning. And so that means getting up before my daughter gets up. That has to happen for me. And because once she's up, I'm connected to her. And so and then other self-care is I sing. I sing in two groups, and so performing is self-care for me. And I'm in an improv troupe. That's also self-care for me. And then just I love, if I can, maybe twice a month, going to see live music and releasing all the responsibility and pushing through the crowd to get to the front row. Even though I'm turning 39 this month, I still love to push to the front row like I did when I was a teenager. I love to be with the musicians in a sense. My husband's like, "What did you just say?" And I said, "I want to be close enough to hear them breathe while they're playing the guitar." And he's like, "That's a little creepy," but I do. I want to be that close. And then I just jump. I jump and I dance. And so those things are, as an extreme extrovert, my self-care is really more extroverted, except for the journaling and meditating. The other three that I have to be my best self, they are, performing or being with other artists and just moving my body and dancing and having that cathartic release. And then when I don't have those things, I worry a lot more and I stress a lot more and I'm harder on myself. And I can look back over the week and be like, oh, of course I am. I didn't make time for my self-care. So, but I always remember Amy Poehler's quote from her therapist, which is, as women, instead of looking at our lives like taking off hats and putting on different hats, just look at your life like all the pieces of spouse, parent, business owner, friend, daughter. Look at all those pieces as fridge magnets on your fridge. And rarely ever do I take my fridge magnets off. They're always there. They always matter. But I do shift them around some. And so I'm learning to give myself grace for those weeks of, oh, I had my family in town. My parents stayed with us. I did not have time for my self-care like I wanted. And that's okay. They leave tonight. I'll get back to it tomorrow. I'm not going to flog myself for not doing that. Just shift that fridge magnet around.
Yeah. Fridge magnets are much better than hats because you never really take it off completely.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's always there. And I so resonate with the extroverted forms of self-care. I am very much the same. But what really stood out to me, and something that I have been noticing with myself, is if you're feeling really stressed, if you're being harder on yourself, that was awesome. With your work, as entrepreneurs, it's probably because you're not taking time to do those things outside of the business that give you pleasure, that help you tune out, and tune into yourself, tune into your community. So it looks different for all of us, but we have to have those things that are outside of the daily work that we do with clients, which is fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yes, but we need to also do self-care. And I know self-care is such a buzzword and, so many different things, but at the end of the day, we need it. We need to spend that time. Well, before I ask you to share a little bit more about how people can connect with you and work with you and find you, I always like asking all of my guests my $1,000,000 question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Meg, what is an empowered woman to you?
I love that question. An empowered woman to me is a woman who believes that her desires are safe.
Mm. Ooh, straight to the point. That is so true. She can pursue them.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and go through that framework if she's having a hard time pursuing them.
Yes.
The Meyer.
Yes.
I love that. Well, you do have a free resource for our listeners. Tell us more.
Yes. So, as you know, people wired to be entrepreneurs have more thoughts in the day than those that are not wired to be entrepreneurs. So sometimes people do want to write a book, but they have lots of ideas, or the idea just isn't clear. And so I've created 5 questions and a printable action sheet and a little video that is, and every person that's gone through these 5 questions, they leave knowing exactly what their first book is going to be. So that I would love to share that with your people.
I love that so much. So it's called the 5
questions to know which book to write first. It's really a long-winded title. I need to put that through Claude or ChatGPT and say, shorten
make
this.
it shorter. No, but I think it really explains what it is. So for anyone out there listening that's like, I don't even know what I would say in my first book. Well, let's think about this, answer these questions, and access this free resource. And for people wanting to work with you, you said to go on exploration calls.
Yes. I do not ask for a monetary value exchange for that space. It is complimentary, yet it is extremely sacred. And my goal is for that hour, I plan for exploration calls with people. I am in service to them. And my goal is that they leave that hour with 100% certainty of what their biggest block and obstacle is. Like they leave knowing this is the why. This is why the life I desire as a writer, as a leader, as a business owner, I don't have it yet because of this why. And so even if a partnership isn't in alignment for us, my goal is from a place of service that they leave knowing their obstacle. And so I love opening that time up. And I always ask them the normal things like be on a computer, have good Wi-Fi, be alone. I want to share my screen, and also be open to being asked questions you've never been asked before about your goals as a writer. And so it's a very sacred time. Maybe someday in my business, I'll ask for a monetary value exchange for that. But right now it still feels in alignment to offer that from a place of service to other people.
Okay. Amazing. And people can find information on how to book that on your website?
Yes, megcalvin.com.
Awesome. And how can we connect with you? Do you hang out mostly in one of the social media platforms?
Yes. I'd love to hang out with you at Instagram. So at Hey Meg Calvin on Instagram.
Amazing. So we'll have all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing your bubbly, lovely energy with us today and for the work that you're doing supporting authors, getting the word out there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.